homage to fundamental teacher Buddha Shakyamuni, homage to wisdom warrior Manjushri, homage to all lineage benevolent masters. The Dharma, infinitely profound and subtle, is rarely encountered even in 1,000,000 eons. Now we are able to hear, study, and follow it. May we fully realize Tathagata's true meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings, please generate supreme bodhicitta. Now we will continue teaching the words of my perfect teacher. In the words of my perfect teacher, we are currently teaching mandala offerings for those who are utterly destitute, or those who can truly visualize countless Buddha fields within a single particle of dust, and make offerings of visualization for those with sharp faculties. The sutras permit offerings of earth powder, pebbles, and so forth. However, those who actually possess vast wealth but are reluctant to use it for offerings and charity, yet put on displays of chanting mantras, visualization, and so forth, using such seemingly valid reasons while being self-satisfied, are actually deceiving themselves. Our offerings indeed bring especially great merit, as we discussed earlier regarding mandala offerings. This is actually one of the best skillful methods for making offerings to all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So if we make offerings this way, we should gain immeasurable and boundless merit in this life and future lives. Offerings can eliminate all suffering. Offerings will surely bring the wisdom of all Buddhas. At this supreme object of offerings, make offerings with incomparable joy, therefore gladly make offerings to the Buddha. This is what the Flower Ornament Sutra states. So offerings serve two purposes, eliminating suffering and gaining wisdom. Before such Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the supreme objects of offerings, if we make offerings, there are indeed great benefits. Whether we offer mandalas or worldly material goods, there is immeasurable and boundless merit, so we should make offerings with joyful hearts. As we already explained earlier, for people like those who have no offering materials and are utterly destitute, and for those whose foundation is quite good, who are very sharp, with the visualization ability of countless Buddha fields within a single particle of dust, for such people, there is special permission, if there is truly no other way. Offering earth, powder, and pebbles is allowed, but some people clearly have wealth, yet are reluctant to make offerings and charity, taking a pile of earth, powder, and stones, saying Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are everything, such and such. Making offerings and charity in this way is self-deception. Actually, many people in the world today understand just a little bit, but their learning is not really thorough, and such people often put on displays of either mysterious and profound mantras to get by, or they say that chanting a few mantras is sufficient. For example, when eating meat, chanting a few mantras means there will be no negative consequences. For preliminary practices, chanting some mantras is enough. No need to practice. Just doing it simply is sufficient. Some people are particularly lazy. Some may not understand and are rather foolish themselves, deliberately dealing with many people around them in this way. This is completely self-deception, and at the same time, indirectly deceiving many other people as well. This kind of practice is absolutely unreasonable. Moreover, in the Tantras and Pith instructions, it clearly states clean and beautiful offering materials and prepare clean and delightful offerings. Many Tantras and verses state that our offering materials must be beautiful, clean, especially dignified and attractive. This is explained very clearly. They do not say dirty and filthy offering materials. When we make offerings, they must be clean. Therefore, we absolutely cannot use our leftover soup, remaining food, and other filthy items as offerings, or keep the good barley and food for ourselves to eat while offering dregs that are completely unusable, or using tsampa that has been ground to make torma offerings, etc. Some people nowadays do this, offering what they themselves cannot eat at all. A while ago, someone said this, "Take these drinks away, I'm offering them to your masters." We don't drink junk food. We don't need it. Let your masters drink it, considering it garbage oneself, yet offering the garbage to others. So when we generally make tsampa tormas, we must be clean at this time. Just as the great masters of the Kadampa tradition often said in the past, Absolutely do not enjoy the especially fresh portions yourself while offering moldy oil cakes and yellowing vegetable leaves to the three jewels. The negative consequences are very great. Also, using spicy or rancid butter, etc. to make tormas or butter lamps for offering is inappropriate. Using fresh butter for oneself, these are all causes for exhausting merit, so such behavior must be abandoned. When we make offerings in daily life, some people generally offer their surplus or what they really cannot eat. This is inappropriate. We must. This is how we usually do it. For example, if there is a good piece of clothing, first offer it to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Waving it in the air, this is also a form of gesture. When we enjoy any kind of food at the beginning in the past, this tradition in our Tibetan areas was very good. No matter where you went, when drawing water, we first offer new water to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Whatever delicious food there might be today, first offer it fresh to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. This brings very great merit. Furthermore, when making torma offerings, etc., the texture must be the same as our own food. In our academy in the past, we often made tormas. When His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche required the recitation of the King of Aspiration prayers, every day there were 3,000 lamps and 3,000 tormas. The 5 offerings had to be made daily. At that time, we at Vajrasubdua continent also did this together. When making tormas, it should be just like the appropriate texture. When we eat tsampa, making tormas cannot be too soft or too hard. If too hard, there's no way to make them at all. If too soft, this exhausts merit and is also inappropriate. One cannot consider convenience and make soft, mushy torma balls. When Venerable Atisha came to the Tibetan areas, he personally said this. Tibetans will not have great wealth. Why? Because the torma balls people make are soft and collapsing. Making them especially soft, Venerable Atisha used this as an example. When Venerable Atisha came to the Tibetan areas, his impression was still quite unfavorable. Because at that time, as an Indian, indeed in India, living conditions in all aspects were probably quite good. After coming to the Tibetan areas, he would say, "Your region is a land of hungry ghosts," or "You don't even have people with the merit to enjoy a single meal." Sometimes he would say, "You will not be prosperous." Whenever the Venerable Master came here, economically speaking, his impression of Tibetans was probably not very good. He consistently, perhaps not all Tibetans would say this, but the Venerable Master said, "You Tibetans will not be wealthy because the tsampa you make is quite soft, and the tormas you make are soft." Furthermore, the Venerable Master also said this about the Tibetan areas. I caught a cold. They are from Yushu. The people of Yushu have very good faith. Indeed, the people there. In our academy these past few years, especially since the Yushu earthquake, quite a few have come. I particularly admire their kind of faith. Whether toward monastics or upon arriving at a monastery, they have a kind of reverence for the 3 jewels from their hearts, especially devout. There are differences in the Tibetan areas as well. In some individual places, although in the past the Tibetan areas were places where all people practiced religion, now many have been assimilated and completely lack any concept of faith. So the people of Yushu are... Here it says that in the Tibetan areas, merely using water to accumulate merit is already sufficient. In India, because the weather is excessively hot, there is no pure water like in the Tibetan areas. Indeed, in the past, India was basically in the tropical zone there. It's a tropical rainforest climate. What climate does India have in geography studies? How many types are there? We used to have a geography teacher, Teacher Wang. At that time, my test scores were quite good, but now I've forgotten everything. I heard that the teacher has already passed away. India, tropical rainforest climate. Tropical, and what else? What climate does India have? Rainforest climate, right? It's not rainforest climate. Tropical what climate? Tropical monsoon climate, okay? Now it might be a bit better. When His Holiness went to India, the water in India was still somewhat murky, not as clear as the water in Tibetan areas. Sometimes when we go to mountain valleys in Tibetan areas, that water is indeed especially suitable for making offerings in Tibetan areas. In Han regions, some filtering is done now, which is also acceptable. If we merely make water offerings, this merit is also very great. We have also taught this before. I hope Dharma friends will set up 7 offering cups at home. Actually, 7 offering cups are very easy to buy. It's best to make offerings once a day. If it's really not possible, then do this after offering for several days. One Dharma friend said, "After I offered for 7 days, because Dharma protectors probably come often, the water gradually disappeared. This is not because Dharma protectors came. The water probably naturally evaporated. He himself is lazy, probably like this." As long as one can be diligent, accumulating merit by offering pure water will also bring unimaginable merit and benefits. If our minds are pure, before the objects of the 3 jewels, anything can be offered. It depends on the mind. Giving to the merit field of the 3 jewels is called the most excellent giving. This seems to be taught in the Itivuttaka. One will always be peaceful and happy and later attain nirvana. If we truly make any offering to the 3 jewels with a pure mind, this is called excellent giving and also excellent offering. The result is that in this life, one often experiences happy results and peace. And in future lives, one quickly attains the fruition of nirvana. So there should be very great merit. When making water offerings, one should carefully clean the 7 water offering cups and other vessels thoroughly and arrange them with appropriate spacing. They should not be too close or too far apart, crooked or askew. Such phenomena are not acceptable. They should be arranged especially neatly. Moreover, the water cannot contain grains, dust, beings, small insects, etc. The water in the vessels should neither be completely full nor extremely insufficient. If too full, some people who don't offer water properly have water all over the altar table, which is also inappropriate. Some only offer a tiny bit, pouring just a little, just a little. This is also inappropriate. Moreover, there should be no spilled water flowing on the altar, and it must be done exquisitely and beautifully, pleasing to behold. The King of Aspiration Prayers also says, such supreme ornaments. Whatever kind of offering, even the manner of arrangement and display, must be done beautifully and magnificently, pleasing and delightful to people. In this way, through the cause of revering the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, one can perfect vast accumulations. Therefore, we must exert all our efforts to do these things. Making offerings. We often, as permanent residents of the Academy, should understand this quite clearly. Even just a single lamp or a stick of incense or a flower at any time, as was mentioned earlier when teaching the 7-branch offering in the words of my perfect teacher. Even when we see quite nice houses, even people we like, anything at all, as long as we like it, we can offer it. The 3 jewels have no particular attachments, but we ourselves indeed accumulate very vast merit. Of course, if one is extremely poor and truly powerless, there's no choice. In such circumstances, with a pure heart, offering dirty leftover soup, remaining food, inferior items, etc. is also not impossible, because the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas have no attachment or discrimination between clean and dirty. In the past, there was also the story of the poor woman town scavenger offering an oil lamp to the world-honored one. This story seems to have been taught before. It's in the Sutra of the Wise and the Foolish, already explained in the Chapter of the Poor Woman Nanda. Actually, this story was first told to me by my mother. She couldn't read a single character, but she could tell many Buddhist stories especially well. When we were small, before we went to school and couldn't recognize a single character, she would often tell these stories in the children's ears. After telling these stories, when we were children, we seemed to remember them more clearly. When we grew up and later studied Buddhism, the written stories in the sutras were basically the same. It's just that probably some individual words, habitual to Tibetan daily life, were added on top. Later, I thought that these might have been deliberately added by later people. I could tell this story to many people when I was very, very young, and I knew how to tell it. Even at school, back in the 1980s, when religion was not open, I often told this story about making offerings. Everyone could tell this story. Many people here have studied it, because that poor woman was especially poor and had no offering materials. Every time she saw King Prasenajit inviting the Buddha and many other noble beings for offerings, and all the offering lamps in the royal palace were made of gold and silver. All the lamp vessels were made of gold and silver. She silently rejoiced on one hand, and on the other hand felt especially guilty, thinking, I must not have created virtuous deeds in past lives, so I'm so poor in this life, while the king has such merit. So she kept begging everywhere, and when begging, she obtained 1 coin. Later, when she wanted to offer a lamp, she couldn't afford it. Later, the person selling oil added some more for her. She bought oil, and very joyfully, when offering together with the king's lamps, she also made 1 lamp herself. In the afternoon, Modgalyayana prepared to extinguish all the lamps. At that time, it wouldn't extinguish. Using all kinds of supernatural powers, there was no way. Later, the Buddha said it was a lamp offering embraced by bodhicitta, and you Shravakas have absolutely no way to extinguish it. He also praised the various merits of making offerings with bodhicitta and made prophecies about how she would become a Buddha in the future. So even if we offer just a single lamp, if our minds are truly embraced by bodhicitta, the merit of making 1 lamp is inconceivable. Indeed it is. So we should not despise even small virtuous deeds. And when others do them, we must never obstruct them. Some people who don't understand say, hey, forget about all this, forget it. What's the point of making offerings? Just settling the mind is enough. Just visualizing in the mind is enough. But when you clearly have material possessions, you also cannot just visualize. When you clearly have food, you say visualizing eating is enough. I won't eat lunch, I'll just visualize. This way, one probably hasn't reached such a level of realization. Like the story of the poor woman, there was also once a woman suffering from leprosy who, while begging, obtained a bowl of rice soup and offered it to the great Shravaka Mahākāśyapa. At that time, a mosquito fell into the soup. The leper, in order to remove the mosquito, ended up with her finger. Her body was already severely decayed, falling into the rice soup. But Kāśyapa did not show disgust and fulfilled her wish by drinking the rice soup, making it his entire meal for the day. This brought immeasurable joy to the leper, and through this cause, after death she was reborn in the heaven of the 33. In the sutras, there isn't a completely identical story to this. There's a story in the southern tradition's Theragatha teaching that bhikkhus need to be content with little in such a story, where Mahākāśyapa encountered a poor woman during his alms round. The patient ultimately had her own body, seemingly a finger, fall into it. There's such a verse-like story that might exist in the sutras, but the telling is slightly different, not quite the same as this version. In the Chinese Tripitaka, there is one about Venerable Mahākāśyapa called the Sutra on Mahākāśyapa liberating a poor mother. The plot in that sutra is slightly different from this one, but it's also very good, a short sutra. When convenient, I hope students will take a look. I hope fellow practitioners should also take a look when convenient. What does this story teach? At that time, Venerable Kāśyapa went to Rajagriha, to the city, to seek alms. But Venerable Kāśyapa had a particular characteristic. He would specifically seek alms from poor benefactors. There was one of the Buddha's disciples who would specifically seek alms from wealthy benefactors. Their 2 characteristics were completely different, just like some people's choices nowadays. As long as there is wealth, they are especially joyful and value it greatly. But why did this venerable one often seek out wealthy people? Because his purpose was that these wealthy people were particularly stingy, so he would specifically go there to make them give charity and tame them. Such was his attitude. Venerable Kāśyapa was different. He would specifically seek alms from poor people. Once he went to a place where there was a servant of a wealthy person. This servant was penniless, utterly destitute, and very poor. She didn't even have a place to live, living in an earth cave, and when sick, often waited for death. Although medical expenses in India at that time weren't as expensive as now, it was still very painful. Once, when he specifically went to find her, it just so happened that when the wealthy family was pouring out rice soup, she obtained 1 bowl of that rice washing water. Just as she was about to drink a little, Venerable Kāśyapa arrived. After Venerable Kāśyapa arrived, he sought alms from her. That poor mother, actually an elderly woman, was especially saddened. She said, "You should give charity to me. In this world now, in this country, there is no one as poor as me." She cried while being especially saddened. Venerable Kāśyapa said, "If I give you material goods, you also lack merit and cannot enjoy them. It's better for you to make offerings to me. This way there's no difference." Later, she offered her rice-washing water, only half a bowl, to Venerable Kāśyapa. When making the offering to Venerable Kāśyapa, it seems it didn't mention fingers falling into it. Venerable Kāśyapa immediately accepted it, and after accepting it, he drank it and made dedications. Later, that elderly mother died, and after death was reborn in the celestial realm. When reborn in the celestial realm, the celestial palaces began to shake. Among all the celestial beings, her magnificence, majesty, and merit were exceptionally good. Even Indra felt doubtful about why this was so. What kind of karma had she created in past lives that was so special? He asked her in verse. Later, when the celestial maiden used her supernatural powers, she realized that when she was a poor woman in the past, she had made offerings to Venerable Kāśyapa, not really proper rice porridge, but rice washing water. Through this merit she was reborn in the celestial realm. There are many verses following this, so I think that as later students, we should have genuine faith in these stories and examples. In actual action, one doesn't necessarily need to have especially much wealth, but it's a matter of the heart. I've said before that charity is a matter of the heart. Indeed, whether we give charity or make offerings, it's also a matter of the heart. But this heart cannot be applied when you're happy, and when you're unhappy, deny and refute everything. Acting this way is inappropriate, so when offering mandalas, it's the same. With pure intention, doing one's best to create pure and delightful offerings is a very supreme pith instruction. The mind can create wrongdoing and can also cultivate meritorious deeds. This is what the sutras teach. The mind can create wrongdoing. Our minds can create wrongdoing and can also cultivate meritorious activities. So this mind of ours can also create wrongdoing in every thought and movement, generating anger and greed toward people nearby, finding everything disagreeable, constantly generating jealousy. While sitting in the assembly listening to teachings, the mind scatters externally, creating karma, fighting, doing all kinds of bad things is also possible. But if the mind is virtuous, even if one's behavior may not always be particularly in accord with Dharma, actually there is great merit in creating virtue. This also exists. So when we make mandalas, it's the same, with a pure heart, making the offerings as clean, pure, and magnificent as possible. Next is the principle of accumulating merit. Offering mandalas and diligently accumulating merit is an indispensable practice in the process of cultivation. Practicing mandalas, indeed, people of any status should still practice. Some people say, "I don't need to practice the 5 preliminaries now. I can directly practice Dzogchen. My teacher has given me permission." My teacher is very compassionate and has a special connection with me, a special relationship, so he opened the back door and said I don't need to practice the 5 preliminaries. He saw that I am someone with sharp faculties. But if you have sharp faculties, it's still better to cultivate merit. Look at Venerable Anuruddha. We've told his story before. When his eyes went blind and later his clothes became tattered, unable to see, he called out, "Who will cultivate merit? Come, come cultivate merit." Later, when the Buddha said, "I want to cultivate merit," he was terrified. "Buddha, I wasn't speaking to you. I meant other people." The Buddha said, "Why is it that after I became a Buddha, isn't it true that the more merit, the better? Becoming a Buddha doesn't require stopping the cultivation of merit. If even the Buddha still needs to continuously create merit in his manifest activities, then no matter how good our ordinary people's realization or how excellent our teacher's supernatural powers, if one doesn't even need to practice 100,000 mandalas, I truly have some doubts. I don't dare say it's wrong, because beings' faculties are different. For people like us to judge others' faculties, If they're truly sudden enlightenment beings like Vimalamitra, then it's hard to say. But generally, many of the great perfection lineage masters indeed place special emphasis on accumulating merit and purifying obscurations, including our Guru Rinpoche every little bit. He placed special emphasis on this. A while ago, when joking with several Dharma friends, it was both joking and casual conversation. The old disciples from when Guru Rinpoche was alive were still different. They still emphasized accumulating merit and purifying obscurations. Whether in recitation or other aspects, they place special emphasis on this. Each generation is inferior to the previous. We have such whispered conversations. Actually, to tell the truth, when many great masters were alive, the content of one class, one teaching, would influence a person's entire life, eliminating many wrong views and discriminating thoughts. This is especially important. Here it says that the Tantras state, without accumulating merit, there is no accomplishment. Oil cannot be pressed from sand. Without accumulating merit, accomplishment is impossible. From the sand by our riverbank, can oil be squeezed out? It's impossible. Not accumulating merit while hoping to gain accomplishment is like trying to squeeze oil from riverside sand. Even if one exerts tremendous effort squeezing sand, one cannot obtain even a single drop of oil from it. Whereas wanting to gain accomplishment through accumulating merit is like oil appearing in the process of pressing sesame seeds. If you press more and more, the oil that comes out is also more and more. Even just a single sesame seed pressed on our fingernail will produce oil. Our entire fingernail will be oily. So the sutras also say that not having accumulated merit while wanting to gain accomplishment is like churning water, trying to get oil. If accumulating merit to gain accomplishment, it's equivalent to churning milk to obtain butter. Therefore, now we all should have the goal of becoming Buddhas. I think everyone should have this, and indeed this is necessary. We Mahayana Buddhists should not say that for Hinayana Buddhism, their goal of attaining fruition is most important. Many young people and worldly people nowadays often say, what is the meaning of living? Where is life's purpose? They love to ask this frequently, but if you don't consider life's purpose from a long-term perspective, that's another matter. If you consider it long-term, then at every moment think, I want to become a Buddha. The Buddha said this in the Sutra of Instructions to the king. He told the king at that time, you as a king have many trivial affairs, and practicing all the meanings of all scriptures one by one would be impossible to realize. But if you can practice just one Dharma, you can gain accomplishment. What is this one Dharma? Whether you sit or lie down in all the four postures, in all activities, you need the thought, I want to become a Buddha. This was originally in prose form. I'm explaining the meaning of this scriptural citation to everyone in plain language. For those of us here, indeed mastering all the countless Mahayana sutras and treatises completely and practicing them fully would be somewhat difficult, but as those seeking accomplishment, we should constantly say, I want to become a Buddha, having such an aspiration. Just like some people who especially want to get rich think every day, I want to get rich. So for each of us to have such goals and thoughts is very important. If we have this, then what is its cause? We must accumulate merit. Practicing mandala offerings as the main practice, along with all accumulation of merit and purification of obscurations, this is especially important. Without this, indeed not cultivating merit would be very difficult. In the past, Chan Master Zhao Zhou would sweep the floor every day in the Dharma hall. A monk came and said, "Ah, you're such a great master. Why do you still need to sweep?" He said, "There's a lot of dust here, so we must sweep." "Ah, how can there be dust in the pure Buddhist sanctuary? Look, now another speck of dust has come, now another speck of dust has flown in." The meaning is that his mind was not pure, so sweeping was necessary. Such is the saying. Actually, doing such meritorious deeds indeed cultivates merit. I feel that in Han regions many Chan monasteries have work periods. In the past, many traditions of Master Beijang and monastic rules required many years of labor from the beginning. Once, when Master Beijang was in his later years, one time he didn't work, and when others offered him food, he said, "1 day without work, 1 day without food." He had to work every day to cultivate merit. This is very important, including in India. There are especially many Tibetan Buddhist monasteries now, one great monastery after another, but those great masters require all monks to farm. India is not like other places. There's also support from some Westerners who give some offerings to the Sangha, but most still do their own work. Those monastics are very capable, both able to work and able to eat well. This way is really very good. Yesterday I saw several nun teachers by our comprehensive building starting to move coal, one after another, looking like you couldn't recognize them as people, one after another. Among them was one who, during our university summer camp, hadn't yet ordained and was a young nun who had studied in America. Later, I recognized her and said, "You were in America, beautiful as a garden, not studying well, and came here to be like a coal person every day, carrying coal. Why?" But in my heart, I truly think that no matter what status a person has, doing some work oneself is still very necessary, because people shouldn't put on airs, whether you're a president or a Dharma teacher, whatever you are. Putting on a kind of arrogant attitude and constantly enjoying others' service is not very good. Sometimes doing work oneself, cultivating merit oneself, doing some things oneself. For people, this is very necessary. The behavior of great masters in the past was also like this. We ourselves shouldn't always be like some children from wealthy families, thinking that throughout life everyone should serve me and I just need to enjoy. We shouldn't have such an attitude. So cultivating merit in all aspects, especially for the Sangha and these merit fields, doing some meaningful things will definitely be beneficial for your accomplishment. So here it also teaches that attaining extremely supreme accomplishment is the true result of perfecting the two accumulations. Just as was explained in the previous text, without perfecting merit and wisdom accumulations, one cannot attain Buddhahood with its two purities. The protector Nagarjuna also said, "By this virtue may all beings perfect merit and wisdom accumulations and attain the supreme two kayas born from merit and wisdom." May this virtue be dedicated to beings to perfect merit and wisdom accumulations. What is born from merit and wisdom accumulations? The Dharmakaya and Rupakaya. This is also taught in the precious garland of the middle way. The form bodies of Buddhas are accomplished through merit accumulations. The Dharmakaya, to summarize, is born from wisdom accumulations. The form bodies of Buddhas are accomplished through merit accumulations. The Dharmakaya of Buddhas is accomplished through wisdom accumulations. Merit and wisdom, these two accumulations, are the cause of perfect Buddhahood. This is also taught in the lamp for the path to enlightenment. Merit and wisdom, these two accumulations, are the cause of perfect Buddhahood. Merit and wisdom are actually the causes for perfecting the Buddha ground. This means that through perfecting conceptual merit accumulations, one attains the form bodies. But if we don't accumulate merit and only meditate on emptiness every day, this actually wouldn't happen. But from a hypothetical perspective, at a certain point, there might appear a Buddha with only a Dharmakaya but no form body. Some people always especially emphasize meditating on emptiness and reject all merit accumulations. Some people only accumulate merit and reject all deeper aspects like meditation on emptiness. Actually, this is not good. A truly good spiritual teacher, for example, a very good teacher, considers the comprehensive development of students' intellectual and moral education very thoughtfully. If this child is very one-sided, considering only moral education or only the student's intelligence, not considering the other, that's one-sided. So regarding a guru, I often think this way, and we're not exaggerating ourselves or praising ourselves while disparaging others, but indeed the gurus we encounter still have differences. If a guru only emphasizes merit accumulations and doesn't understand at all other aspects of emptiness, for example, Madhyamaka Dzogchen, many aspects of emptiness, and is quite rejecting of them, then probably the disciples we cultivate will only understand this one aspect. If a guru only understands theoretical aspects of emptiness very well, but doesn't emphasize merit accumulation and truly worldly virtuous dharmas, it's equivalent to some current school professors, some professors in schools who research history, astronomy, geography, psychology. In these areas, they should be said to have very rich experience and wisdom, but those they train are also like themselves, only looking from a research perspective, without emphasizing actual practice for everyone, removing obstacles. These aspects are not emphasized. So in the future, when guiding later people, everyone should also emphasize accumulating both merit and wisdom. This is very important. Here it also says that through conceptual merit accumulations one attains the form body, and by perfecting non-conceptual wisdom accumulations one attains the supreme Dharmakaya. Moreover, even temporary worldly accomplishments all come from accumulations. If one has never accumulated any merit, then no matter how much effort one makes, it's of no avail. If one really hasn't accumulated any merit at all, it's especially difficult. There's a Dharma friend who says every day, "I want to get rich. Can you bless me?" I've already blessed him countless times, but the more I bless, the worse it gets. Today he sent me another message saying, "I've been volunteering for the academy for 4 or 5 years. No, starting from 2004, he said, "I've been volunteering for the academy since 2004, but the more I volunteer, the poorer I get. What should I do?" I haven't finished replying to his message. I'll reply when I return. One must accumulate merit. Otherwise, truly getting rich immediately in this lifetime would be somewhat difficult. For example, just speaking of immediate enjoyments, food and wealth, some people rely on previously accumulated merit as their foundation and effortlessly have wealth flowing naturally. But some people spend their entire lives trying every method, working diligently and conscientiously, doing business and farming, yet don't have even a sesame seed's worth of harvest. There was someone from our hometown, I think I've used his name many times before when teaching Treasury of Good Advice. And indeed it's like this. A while ago when I went to the monastery, I encountered him again. Every time I see him, I have a certain feeling. Actually, in nomadic villages, the average income per person is roughly the same. In their family, there are also many young, capable people, but people's merit is especially strange. Some people don't need to exert great effort at all, but naturally, as I said before, money comes rushing in. Some people, money rushes away from them, money rushes past them. After it passes, it never comes again. I have such a feeling. Every time I see that person, because from when I was small, he was especially poor. Now his eyes are about to turn green. It's become like this. When eyes turn green, it's a metaphor for someone about to die. But even then, he's still like this, very, very poor. So sometimes people's past life merit is indeed different. We can also observe this ourselves, in our own families or among relatives and friends. In the past, there was also a king in the Tibetan areas who equalized poverty and wealth 3 times in his lifetime. But after the equalization, the wealthy became wealthy again as before, while the poor still had no way out. So this is a matter of each person's merit. Indeed, merit varies from person to person. In the end, some even meet the fate of starving to death. Such things are witnessed by all of us in real life. Many of us can see people around us like this. Actually, each person's family situation and personal circumstances might be exactly the same. But what they ultimately obtain is different. This is the matter of merit. Furthermore, some people want to gain accomplishment and wealth through practicing wealth deities, dharma protectors, etc. It's the same for such people. If one lacks the merit of generosity accumulated in past lives, then whether dharma protectors, wealth deities, or yellow jampala, nowadays some people in Han regions especially like to request yellow jampala empowerments. But requesting yellow jampala empowerments may provide supportive conditions for those with merit, and then yellow jampala also has ways to help you get rich. But if one has no merit at all, receiving many empowerments may not necessarily be effective. Perhaps some virtuous seeds will be planted in your mind stream. This is possible. Here's a story. Once there was a practitioner living in deep mountains whose life was impoverished and he had nothing, so he began practicing Damchen protector deity and eventually accomplished the practice. Damchen protector deity, Tsiu Marpo, and these are all wealth deities. Practicing them extensively should still be beneficial. However, for true practitioners, not having wealth is actually better. Having wealth often brings much suffering and causes one's mind to scatter. Some wealthy practitioners often don't practice well. This happens. Having no wealth at all sometimes brings much distress. This also happens. As we vow in our precepts, a moderate lifestyle, not falling to either extreme. At that time, that person had reached the level of conversing with Damchen Protector like person to person, but he hadn't gained any accomplishments, Damchen Protector told him. Because you have not even a fraction of the karmic result of past generosity, I truly have no way to give you accomplishments. He probably requested the protector deity every day, you must help me get rich. He would follow him every day saying, when will I get rich? Can you give this to me? Some people are often like this. Can you give me a picture of a wealth deity? Can you bless me? Can you chant a mantra for me? Anyway, they keep saying every day, wealth deity, get rich, get rich. Some teachers also take a stick and chant, get rich, get rich, get rich, get very rich. I don't know if they got rich or not. Get rich, get rich, get rich, get very rich. This is the 9-vehicle sequence. Get rich, get rich, get rich, get rich, get very rich. Ati Yoga. One day, among a group of beggars, this practitioner obtained a bowl of thin gruel. Later, Damchen Protector asked him, today, did you receive the accomplishment I gave you? Do you know? That person said, I only got a bowl of thin gruel, and it wasn't just me who got it. All of us beggars got some. I don't know what accomplishment you gave me. Actually, Damchen Protector truly had no way, but later he found a way. Perhaps there was a piece of fat in his bowl. Damchen Protector said, when you received the gruel, a large piece of fat fell into your bowl. This is the accomplishment I gave you. Originally, some people who wanted to eat meat used this as scriptural evidence and reasoning to say meat eating is acceptable because Damchen Protector gave someone fat, so it should be permissible. Actually, that's not the meaning. This is just a symbolic story. This too, without a certain amount of merit, he wouldn't necessarily have obtained even this. But through his own requests and Damchen Protector's help, his situation was different from the other beggars that one time. The other beggars probably didn't have that piece of fat in theirs. So sometimes, when we receive offerings of meals, getting a bit more or something more delicious in the bowl, this could also be the blessing of Dharma protectors. But actually, indeed, people without merit have no way to get truly rich. It's just symbolic like this. There's also such a story among the tales of one of the Karmapas. At that time, the Karmapa was very famous with quite high renown. Every day there were many offerings coming from all directions. He had an attendant below him who would take and organize the teacher's offerings every day, constantly collecting and counting money. But he was especially envious in his heart. He was particularly greedy for wealth and thought, oh my, this teacher has so much offerings every day. Actually, I also work very hard. I should also have so many offerings. How wonderful that would be. He kept thinking like this in his heart. Generally, many people around teachers sometimes have such thoughts in their hearts. So at that time, he kept thinking that he too wanted to receive many offerings. Later, the teacher, probably knowing through mind reading, once said, tomorrow, all offerings will go entirely to you. All of tomorrow's offerings will be given to you. When the teacher said this, that disciple was especially happy. He kept looking forward to tomorrow's arrival, thinking, tomorrow may there be many offerings. Tomorrow everything will be mine. As a result, the next day no offerings came at all. In the evening, a fellow villager brought a dried cowhide. In the past, cowhides could be used to buy things, sold for that purpose. So he offered a dried cowhide. The attendant was very saddened and could only take this back. Later, the teacher said to him, perhaps in your past life you created merit like a dried cowhide. I probably created a bit more merit. At this time, it's said the Karmapa's disciple finally examined his own mind. Oh, perhaps compared to the teacher, although we're both the same kind of people, he has so many offerings while I don't. This is probably related to past lives. From then on, he became more open-minded. There's such an account. It can be seen that if one truly lacks the karmic results of past generosity, even practicing wealth deity methods won't work. Poverty cannot be removed. If worldly wealth deities and such could truly bestow accomplishments of real enjoyments, then the majesty and miraculous powers of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas surpass these by hundreds of thousands of times. One can say, all of everything, there would be no need for us to entreat them at all. Having spontaneously vowed to benefit countless beings, they would definitely rain down wonderful enjoyments upon this world, eliminating all poverty in the world in an instant. Because when seeing beings' poverty, they also feel great compassion. So if they had the means, they would rain down treasures for all pitiful beings. But they have no way. The reason is also like this. Actually, it's impossible for it to be this way. So all enjoyments and wealth can only be obtained by accumulating merit. Great masters of the past also taught this way. Diligence like Mount Meru is not as good as accumulating small merit. No matter how diligent, it's still better to create a little merit. If people do not practice giving, it's like seeking light without a lamp. This seems to be taught in the Sutra of the Compendium of Essential Teachings. Abandoning virtuous deeds, how can there be happy results? If people do not practice generosity themselves, it's like having no lamp yet seeking light. Abandoning virtue cannot bring happiness. If we say it the other way around, if we have created some merit, then not being diligent is also acceptable. Sakya Pandita also said in Treasury of Good Advice, if one has merit, all activities can be accomplished, just like sunlight, not depending on other things. Look, sunlight doesn't need anything else. It can illuminate by itself. If one accomplishes activities relying only on diligence, then like lamplight, one needs to rely on other external conditions. I think Sakya Pandita's analogy is excellent. It means that if we ourselves have merit, all things are easily accomplished. If we ourselves lack true merit, no matter what we do, obstacles abound. So relying on one's own ability also requires possessing past life merit. So for us not to encounter poverty in life after life, we must have merit ourselves. So what should we do now? How should we do it now? Some people think, alas, I have no wealth. There's no way. If I had lots and lots of money, lots and lots of wealth, I could make offerings and create merit. But right now, I truly have no way. The only method is this: offering everything in the entire 3,000-fold universe to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions can be practiced through the skillful method of Mandala offerings. This is the pith instruction great masters have given us. If we don't practice this now, it would truly be foolish behavior. So I keep thinking that in our brief human lives, we indeed need to engage in many activities beneficial for our future lives. These activities are extremely beneficial for both self and others. Therefore, when practicing preliminaries, everyone shouldn't be careless. If you understand the reasoning, all of you as human beings should care about your own and others' present and future lives. Good. Today we'll stop here.
Mandala Padma Sada Mandala Padma Sada